And a particular warm welcome to Chief Superintendent Rona Fraser, who I was talking to and delaying the meeting. Welcome, Rona, to your role here in as the area commander. Thank you. I'll read out this. Welcome to this meeting. This meeting has been held remotely and also in person and will be filmed and recorded for live and subsequent broadcast available through the Council's website. The Council is a data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and the Data Protection Act 2018. We broadcast and record Council meetings to fulfil our public task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with Council published policies available through the Council's website. Members of the Council are reminded that it should follow the Council's established meeting protocols, including around the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who have also received invites to the meeting. Thank you for that. Lindsay?
We have apologies from Councillor Clockerty, with Councillor Jackson substituting, and Councillor Law. Convener Roman move to a roll call. The following members please indicate if they're present at the meeting either in person or remotely. Councillor Brennan?
Present remotely.
Councillor Cassidy?
Present remotely.
Councillor Crowther?
Present in chamber.
Councillor Daisley?
Present remotely.
Councillor Hellier?
Present in chamber.
Councillor Jackson? Councillor Jackson? Councillor Law? Thomas Mackenzie?
In the chamber.
Councillor Reynolds?
Present remotely.
Councillor Wilson?
Present in the chamber.
Are there any declarations of interest?
Thank you, Lindsay. We move on to agenda item number 2 under performance management, Police Scotland performance report. Chief Superintendent?
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for having me here today. My name is Rona Fraser. If I haven't already met you, I'd just like to make a very quick introduction to myself. And this is the second time in the division for me, so I'm absolutely delighted to be back, promoted here in December of last year. And I recognise over the last few years there has been quite a few rotations, but I will be very hopeful to remain in the division for as long as I possibly can. I'm very committed to staying here. I was the area commander, so David's equivalent in Renfrewshire 3 or 4 years ago. Got a temporary promotion to superintendent within the division, covering Inverclyde at that time as well, before I moved to Ayrshire for where I've been for the last 3 years. So delighted to come back and be here today. So thank you, just get that over and done with first. Secondly, can I also, before I move into the report, just thank officially partners and the community for their assistance with the incident at the mosque last week. Obviously a particularly testing incident for a number of us, and I've been extremely reassured by that community and partnership engagement and work that went on at that time. So clearly it's an ongoing investigation at the moment, so I can't go into too much detail, but I would like to just offer my thanks here formally. So I'll go in now to the report, which clearly everybody has had a chance to read. It covers the period to the end of October 2024. I won't go over it in full. There are some positive outcomes and obviously some areas of challenge for ourselves and our partners moving forward. So in terms of our incident demand, pleased to report so far this year we've seen a 3.5% reduction in crimes and offences, totaling just over 3,500. In contrast, national crime rates have actually risen, and this positive trend is mainly due to the decrease in key areas such as crimes of dishonesty, sexual crimes, vandalism and road traffic offences. So additionally, our detection rate has improved significantly to just over 70%, and that is, I'm pleased to say, well over the national average. However, we're seeing rising demands in certain areas, including domestic incidents, child protection and substance misuse. So clearly we have to continue our close collaboration with partners, which I mentioned earlier, to ensure that we've got those appropriate responses in place and the appropriate signposting and assistance to those victims and those vulnerable individuals within our community. So in relation to violence, overall violent crime has seen an increase compared to the previous reporting period, with a notable rise in common assaults. The detection rate for violence in Inverclyde remains relatively high at just over 70%, surpassing both the previous year's figures and the national average. A significant portion of violent crime takes place in private settings, I'm sure you'll be aware, such as homes and flats. So that presents us with a number of challenges in terms of opportunities for prevention, but also opportunities for investigation due to limited witness opportunities and CCTV and such like. But in light of these challenges, particularly in cases involving domestic abuse and violence against women and girls, our officers are trained to explore further opportunities and alternative investigative techniques to try and make as big a dent as we possibly can, not just in prevention, but also in that detection piece. So in relation to disorder and antisocial behaviour, I'm happy to report that complaints about disorder in the community have shown a notable decline, with just over 1,200 incidents reported. Addressing disorder and antisocial behaviour continues to be primary focus for Inverclyde Partnership Hub, which I'm sure you will be well aware by now is a police-led initiative that involves collaboration with a number of our statutory and third sector partner organisations. There's also been a decrease in crimes related to damage and reckless behaviour, along with a reduction in reports of vandalism. So additionally, instances of willful fire raising have significantly decreased by almost 70% compared to the same period last year. And just moving on now to hate crime. Sadly, we have recorded 93 hate crime incidents in Inverclyde following the new Hate Crime and Public Order Act, which enhances protection for all social groups and introduces a new recording system. Race was the most common characteristic, featuring in roughly a third of all those cases. We remain committed to ensuring our community is inclusive and safe for everyone. Moving on now to sexual crime. A total of 54 sexual crimes were recorded in Inverclyde during the last reporting period, showing a noticeable decrease compared to the same time frame last year. Some of these crimes involved reports made after a significant amount of time had passed, and the majority of sexual offences in Inverclyde were non-contact crimes. So those include cyber-enabled incidents such as indecent communications, possession of inappropriate images, threats to disclose private images and such like. The detection rate for sexual crime saw an improvement from the previous year at almost 78%, which again is significantly exceeding what we see on a national level. Missing persons represents quite a significant demand for us in terms of organisation, and we take it extremely seriously. And in doing so, we use a thorough threat assessment to evaluate the risks surrounding each individual. And during the reporting period, there were 178 reports involving 87 individuals, reflecting a 36% rather increase from previous year. This rise is partly due to new national guidelines that improve recording practices, which essentially means that every person that's reported missing is now recorded on a database, which contributes to our stats. All missing persons within register were recovered safe and well, with an average missing time of 14 hours, which is again slightly below the national average in terms of the number of hours spent to locate those individuals. Approximately 1/3 of those reported missing were peer experienced young people. So domestic abuse, addressing domestic abuse is a priority for Renfrewshire in the Inverclyde Division, as it is indeed on a force level. And despite being underreported, the police are committed to providing a sensitive and consistent response to victims. Due to recording methods, caution is needed when comparing recorded domestic abuse incidents and detection rates. In Inverclyde, reported incidents increased by almost 20% in the previous year, with 240 incidents resulting in a crime being reported. So the multi-agency tasking and coordination, MATAC, and multi-agency risk assessment conferences, MARAC, both play essential roles in supporting victims and ensuring accountability across all relevant stakeholders. Second last year, I have a quick overview of acquisitive crime in Inverclyde. That too has experienced a decrease in reported crimes of dishonesty, which contrasts the national rise. The detection rate for those crimes is notably higher than the national average also, and housebreaking incidents have declined, particularly those involving dwelling houses. However, theft by shoplifting, which makes up a large portion of dishonest crime on its own, has shown an increase, primarily driven by repeat offenders targeting repeat locations, with alcoholic beverages remaining the most commonly stolen items. In response, our Partnership Preventions and Interventions Unit, alongside our community policing officers, are engaging with local businesses and indeed COPFS to try for alternatives and to combat this retail crime wave that we're all experiencing across the country. In terms of road safety, Inverclyde has recorded 36 road traffic casualties, which was almost a 30% reduction on the previous year, and thankfully no fatalities to report, very few serious injuries, which is an extremely positive picture. Locally, officers worked alongside Police Scotland's Road Policing Unit on various road safety campaigns, including the National Speed Campaign and the Young Driver Fatal 5 campaign in September. And the pedestrian safety and get ready for winter campaigns took place in October. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chief Superintendent. I'll open that up to questions. Ian?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Chief Superintendent Fraser, for coming along today, and we look forward to working with you in the
Ian, I've turned my light off now. Yours should go on. There you go.
Thank you. It's just a question regarding the weapon offences, and 106 obviously is too many no matter what. I'm just wondering now, what is the procedure if somebody is detained for possession of a knife? Are they detained in custody, and what is the procedure thereafter?
Yeah, they're taken in. Yes, they're taken into custody. There's absolutely not any kind of direct report for anybody that's found in possession of a weapon.
And also, do they have a quick appearance in court thereafter?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ian? Councillor Crowther?
Thank you, Convener. I just noticed here under the public confidence that there's 83.7% of the respondents in a youth police survey reported that they felt safe within the local area, which is a high figure, albeit slightly lower than the national average. I would love to have thought that that was due to the confidence in the police. However, when we look at it there's only 28.9% of the respondents expressed their opinion that the police were doing a good job. Have you any reason as to why that figure should be so low?
So there are a number of things involved in these surveys. Firstly, there's actually a very low number of people who respond to them, unfortunately. So we would really encourage, through any avenue that we can, to get as many people to respond to the surveys as possible. So a lot of negative reporting, as you can imagine, low reports and figures in terms of the police doing a good job in the local community. I'd really like to try and improve it. I think 30% is disappointing, or 28.9% is disappointing. Our local community police officers are out there engaging with the public. We have our community intervention and prevention programme, we have our schools outreach, we have a number of opportunities to try and make positive connections within the community, and I am actually quite disappointed to see that at the level it is. Nationally, it's a very similar figure. Yeah. We're going to we're going to be lucky to try and push it any further than that, to be honest, and that's some of that comes with the nature of our role. And some of the engagement that people have with the police is not going to be positive because they don't want to be arrested, they don't want to be charged, they don't want to come into contact with us ultimately. So while it's disappointing, and we will try our hardest over the next period to try and get that slightly more in keeping with at least the national average, we can do that through the means that I've spoken about, through our with help from our partners. You know, it's trying our hardest to get into the schools and catch people young so that they understand that the police are there to help. The police are not there to punish and use us in a positive way and see us in that light. So yes, I do absolutely accept that that's not a particularly high figure, and we'll do our best to try and work on that for the next period.
Okay, that's lovely, thank you.
Okay, John.
Yes, I'm fine.
Councillor Daisley?
Thanks, convener. Just around the hate crime reporting. So at a previous panel, one of the other elected members had asked a question around the reporting system. So I believe going by the papers that there's still no updated change to show previous year's comparative data. So with the concern around that ongoing, so I wondered if there was any update on that, first of all, if we'd get to see that data anytime soon. And secondly, it makes it just a bit more concerning because if you read through that particular section, it says that a third of hate crimes in Inverclyde are based around race, which I think is a common denominator across, certainly across nationwide across Scotland, if you look at the national statistics as well. So I would like to understand where we are with that, and if there's any specific initiatives in place to tackle that particular hate crime.
Thank you, Councillor Daisley. Chief Superintendent?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think your first question there came in response to, I think in the report, I couldn't find it there quickly, but I think what you're referring to is the fact that there's the new legislation in place which has slightly skewed our figures, and when that might stabilise in such a way to allow us to make correct comparisons. And if that's the case, then certainly over the course of the next year, we'll be able to do that, and we'll be able to start to document what that looks like compared with this year past. Very new legislation, and obviously very public in terms of what it means to, you know, in relation to a hate incident versus a hate crime, and actually increase those confidence levels in reporting each of those things and how we deal with them appropriately. The second part of your question there, I think, related to actually just any instances of hate crime within our community and how we're dealing with that. And yes, indeed, the fact that race features as the predominant factor in hate incidents is common across the country. And from our perspective, absolutely, we are doing our best to work with as many of our minority groups and communities.
Sure.
We do that within the police, and we do that out with the police. We do it internally to try and understand and make sure that the responses and procedures that we are putting in place increase confidence, increase reporting, increase accessibility. In terms of recruitment, we're trying to replicate what we see out there in the community as well. So, and by doing all of that, we're making ourselves more, I guess, more accessible and more relatable. And out there in terms of our preventions, our interventions, our school officers, our community officers, pushing out our national campaigns against hate crime, and it is just about awareness raising about that, with tolerance, no tolerance to these kinds of incidents. And actually, the work that we've done, well, I touched on it earlier last week with the mosque and the various other community groups, was extremely positive. It put us positively in a position to be able to communicate with as many members of that community as we could. And we certainly want to keep those lines of engagement going. And certainly it is about confidence for us and pushing that message out more widely. I don't know if anyone else thinks about that, David, locally.
Just for a bit more kind of local context, our prevention and interventions team did deliver hate crime inputs to the schools in the area at the beginning of last year. That package has now been upgraded. And it will be getting delivered to the main secondary schools in Inverclyde in the coming months. That's already been arranged, it's in the diary. We're going to specifically target years 4, 5 and 6, who are the young people who are about to leave the school environment and go into the adult working world, so probably the best time to get them and give them that input at this stage. What I'd say as well, just off the back of the horrible incident in the district a couple of weeks ago, there is some positives coming out of it. Myself and obviously held a meeting with the mosque representatives last week, and the imam himself was actually very keen to visit the schools in the local area and deliver advice and guidance and understanding around the different religions in the community and how they impact one another, and just provide young people with a greater understanding of what actually goes on at the mosque and what the Muslim religion consists of, Islam itself. So even though the illustrated incident was quite a negative one for the area, there are small positives coming out of it all the time. So hopefully pushing these things forward in the future, we just see a drive down in these things.
Thank you, David. Who will deliver that programme for the secondary schools?
It will be PC Craig Geddes, who is a counter-terrorism officer.
One of your officers?
Yeah.
Is that a he or a she?
Sorry, Craig Geddes, he. Sorry.
See, so he'll go round the schools and take the programme to all 4th, 5th and 6th years?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. Okay in that, Councillor Daisley?
Yeah, just if I could just thank the officers for that input. It's a really detailed answer and actually very encouraging. And I wondered if it would be appropriate to suggest or ask for a further update at the next panel.
Absolutely, yeah, that's no problem at all. And if we can discuss it if it merits a spotlight of its own, we're quite happy to provide that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Superintendent. So you'll get an answer, another contribution at the next meeting, Councillor Daisley. Councillor Cassidy.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Superintendent, welcome to your new role. I hope we do manage longer than your two predecessors. We do seem to get a revolving door of them of late. My question to you is actually one I've asked of your two predecessors. So your predecessor asked back in 2022 about the level of data you provide to the panel, especially when you compare it to your colleagues in the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, who can provide data on a word-by-word level, so you can really scrutinise service delivery. Back then, I was told you were introducing a new data system that would be in place in 2023. Then in 2023, I asked your predecessor again, where was the data system? I was told it was being still the process of being introduced. I asked your predecessor the same question when he came into post, and we're now in 2025 and clearly no sign of that data system. So I was hoping you could illuminate us as to where that data system is, if it is in place, how come we aren't able to get the level of data that your colleagues in the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service provide.
Chief Inspector.
Yes, so...
Oh, sorry, Chief Superintendent.
No, that's fine, that's absolutely fine. So obviously I'm not clear on the conversations that have taken place before, but certainly there's quite a significant amount of data at the back of these reports. These reports are compiled by an analyst that works for the division. And I was actually just talking to him this morning about the report. If data is your thing, we can absolutely provide more data, line by line, spreadsheet type form, rather than what we do just now, which is pick it out in a bit more of a, I guess, user-friendly storytelling type format. Some of the other scrutinies receive their data in that format, so we do very little to polish it up. It literally we just pull it off the system and hand it over. Some people find that quite difficult to interpret. So really, it's a personal preference. And if there's something in particular you would like me to provide, I'm certainly able to do that, regardless of what system it's coming from. We can, if raw data is more comfortable to you, then it's certainly something I can provide. But again, with yourself, convener, it's maybe something to discuss.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief Superintendent. I think that the question of the amount of data should be a question between yourselves and our officers. I certainly would leave it with our officers to make a decision what they think is appropriate to come to this committee. But Hugh, you want to make a contribution?
Yeah, thanks so much for the question for yourself, Chair. We are starting to engage with our colleagues in Police Scotland, the analyst team, and my analyst team is working closely to try and resolve some of the concerns you've got, Councillor Carson, but also ties back to what we're trying to do with the community safety strategy to see where we are with that for the next 3 years and any social behaviour. So we are, as the new chief said, we are working together to try and resolve that.
So, Councillor Cassidy, officers are talking to the analyst at the police, so hopefully there'll be an outcome from that. Are you okay with that for just now?
For just yes, you Chair, but I do hope we have some more progress by the next scrutiny panel.
Right. Thank you for that. Councillor Reynolds, please.
Thank you.
Thank
Just
you.
to say thank you. I
Thank
just
you.
want to follow up. Yep, can you hear me? Just want to follow up Councillor Daisley's comments on the hate crime section. Thanks very much for your report on that and the answers that you gave Councillor Daisley. It's really good to hear that you're working with the minority groups and also the schools programme you're talking about, and these are really positive steps. And I mention that because, like you say, there's an increase in hate crimes and a third of those are racism, and the amount of racism locally on local social media is really disturbing. I realise that that might just be a minority of people who are keyboard warriors, but it still starts off all conversations. For instance, today somebody mentioned that immigrants shouldn't get free bus passes, not understanding what that term immigrants is, and it set off a whole level of abuse as well. So that's kind of disturbing. And personally, I was kind of managing a queue at a food bank thing, not a food bank, a food, and an elderly gentleman said he wanted to get in before all the darkies. And these kind of things are things that I haven't really heard before, and it's really quite disturbing. You talked about a national campaign from yourselves. Is it possible to get some information about that? I was just thinking about the Just Don't campaign. It seemed to be quite successful addressing male behaviour, and it addressed it in a really good way. So if there was some detail in a national campaign, I probably should know about that, but it would be helpful to get if there's any TV campaign or media campaign. Sorry for going on so long. Thanks very much.
No, thank you, Councillor Brennan. I certainly have noticed some more comments. Some more comments I find unsavoury out there, much more than I've heard 10 years ago. But Chief Superintendent, would you like to answer that, please?
Yes, absolutely. No problem. Whether we can circulate what we have. We have our policing together division now within Police Scotland, which has a department exclusively focused on various aspects that you've just spoken about there, in terms of some of those campaigns and assisting local policing divisions in dealing with hate crime and providing us with hate crime advisors and such like. So certainly we will have a look and see what material we've got, and we will get that circulated to you.
Many thanks.
So it's Councillor Brennan.
It's Councillor Hellier.
Councillor Hellier, please.
Thank you, Convener. Again, just a question to the Chief Superintendent. Obviously, violent crime is up by 8.9%, and nobody wants to see that, but we've got a good strong detection rate in that. However, we see messages in the local press that that's obviously a serious concern. Does the Chief Superintendent have a message to the people of Inverclyde that in fact the streets are still safe, and can we expect to see an increased police presence to ensure that people feel that way? Thanks.
So firstly, yes, our priority on a force level, and certainly mine locally, having done every rank at local policing level, is to try and increase that visibility and presence on the front line. And I'm obviously only a few weeks in post at the moment, but that is one of my key priorities, is to try and increase that presence and visibility. We have quite a number of probationers landing with us in the division over the next couple of months, which is extremely positive for us, because certainly the last time I worked here, we didn't see those numbers coming through and they will all go to frontline and front-facing operational posts. They will fill we will get some of our vacancies filled that have been sitting there within our community policing units and such like. So very positive from us, and I fully expect that you will see them out and about very soon. I think there was another aspect to your question there, excuse me, I don't remember the post. I'll go ahead with it.
Yeah, so just to kind of address from a local point of view, no one wants to see a rise in violent crime across the board, and violence has been just my personal priority since I came here in May, to just try and bring violence down. What I would say though, the message to people of Inverclyde, is that the vast majority of individuals out there that are victims of violent crime will know the person who's assaulted them, and they will know the reason why they were assaulted. And in that sphere somewhere, there's usually a sort of criminality in itself. The odds of someone in Inverclyde who is a good, hard-working, law-abiding member of the community being assaulted is very, very rare. Vast majority of people who are victims of assault potentially the perpetrators of assaults themselves. That would be my message to the local community, that it is safe, and the odds of someone who's not involved in criminality being a victim of a serious assault is very rare.
Yeah, apologies. I remember that actually after you started speaking to David. Yeah, I would absolutely reiterate that. The chances of being randomly assaulted and randomly violently assaulted are extremely low, and that doesn't change the perception, which is a big issue, is that fear of crime, even if it doesn't follow the pattern of what is being reported to us. That's extremely important for us as well, and that's where we can do loads of work with our partners in relation to lighting, safer spaces, accessibility, and just making our outdoor space more welcoming and a place that people feel safer, because that disproportionate fear of crime that links into some of the issues that we've seen in relation to the surveys, the public surveys and such like. So yeah, I would like to just reiterate what David has said, is that your chances of being involved in violent crime when you yourself are not in some way connected through familial relationship or through your own lifestyle, it's low.
Okay,
Thanks, Camille. Yeah, it's good to hear the message as the Chief Inspector says, that the crime is normally related and person to person related, and that positive message is put forward so that people can realise that we do still have safe streets. Thanks very much for that.
yeah, I agree with you, and I thought it was very reassuring what the Chief Inspector said there about the crime against innocent people is negligible. Thank you for that. Francesca.
Thanks. You're absolutely right. It was reassuring what David said there. I don't think it was crimes against innocent people, but I think what you're saying there is very reassuring, because we want to get that message out that Inverclyde is a safe place for most people. What David said gives scant comfort to people who are in their own homes and unfortunately experiencing crimes and violence. But for the most part, outside in Inverclyde, for the nighttime economy, for inward investment, that Inverclyde is a safe place to be. So I think that message, when I've heard David say it before and hearing it now, is really reassuring, and it's one that we should all take a responsibility in getting out there. I just wanted to say, it was just a quick comment. I think it's really important, as some of our councillor colleagues have done, in putting that focus on, tackling hate crime, reducing hate crime. But I would hate for us to be in a space here where we're amplifying any sort of racist language or any sort of racism or hate crime language that we might have seen or heard online or in person. I think for the most part, again, in Inverclyde, we would find what we always say is it's a really inclusive, kind place. That's when we're at our best, when people come together. And I just think we need to be really careful in recounting any of those stories, just that we're not putting out any language there that would make people in our communities or even ourselves feel uncomfortable. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Francesca. Councillor Crowther.
Thank you, convener. If we just go back to the request there for the downloading of data and then to get that data tabulated, is there any use of artificial intelligence that could speed that up? Or is that something that would have to be done at a national rather than divisional level?
Yes, so that would be something that for national consideration. We do have a digitally enabled policing programme, which is looking at a whole number of technological advances that we can use within the police to cut down and make reports more efficient and more targeted and quicker. But at the moment, it's not something that we have at our disposal just now in terms of AI.
Yep, okay, that's lovely, thank you.
Okay, John. Councillor Reynolds.
Hello, I would just like to emphasise that during my comments, I did say that I believed it would be a minority of people, just in case that was misunderstood. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. I don't see any more questions online. I don't see any in the room. Thank you very much, Chief Superintendent and Chief Inspector. We'll move on to agenda item number 3, Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Performance Report. Kevin, I see you're on twice today here. Your agenda item 3 and 4. Agenda item 3, please.
I keep it brief there. Good afternoon, committee. I'm pleased to present our quarterly performance report covering the 1st of October to the 31st of December 2024 for your scrutiny. You'll note the continued and fairly significant drop in activity levels, 35% across all incidents, to historically low levels, which hopefully provide reassurance and encouragement of the work ongoing by ourselves and our partners to ensure the safety of Inverclyde communities. I realise we can't rest on our laurels and continue to direct teams to identify innovative methods to continuously improve. It's clear to see in this report the level of demands is reduced, which positively means that it's reduced impact on people, organisations and built environment within Inverclyde, particularly in what traditionally has been a busier time of year due to the dark nights, weather, social events, etc. Bonfire night being one of them. We did circulate the activity levels in Bonfire night out with the committee to all elected members. Appreciating you have had sight of the report already, it wasn't my intention to go through every detail, but we'd like to highlight some of the details. Pleased to report on page 5, we only had 4 accidental dwelling fires in this quarter, all relatively minor in nature, with detection operating effectively to raise the alarm. Furthermore, on page 6, you will note we had 0 accidental dwelling fire casualties as a result of these incidents, which is great news. We continue to promote and carry out our prevention work streams, such as educational initiatives and home fire safety visits, of which we did 127 properties within Inverclyde this quarter. On page 7, the unintentional injury and harm figure has also dropped. This is pleasing as it's an indicator which has historically risen, as we have attended a more diverse range of special service incidents. 50% of these incidents were road traffic collisions, the remainder occurring in incidents where we support the ambulance service with casualties or to gain access to properties, released trapped persons or animals, etc. Deliberate fire setting also dropped, although this may be against a higher figure from last year following the successful outcomes in the Clun Park area. We continue to work with our partners via the Inverclyde Hub to identify any areas of concern and trends, to proactively engage to reduce these occurrences. Only 1 minor fire incident in a non-domestic premises this quarter, and the fire safety enforcement team continued to conduct audits to ensure and enforce fire safety standards across Inverclyde. Finally, on page 10, unwanted fire alarm signals, these fell slightly again, following the introduction of a new call challenging response model and engagement with any premises suffering from false alarms. Importantly, this helps reduce cost and improve productivity, both for organisations within Inverclyde and ourselves, due to less disruption, allowing for more safety initiatives and training events to take place. I would welcome any questions that anybody has on the report.
Thank you, Kevin. That's a very encouraging report throughout. Do we have questions for Kevin? Councillor Crowther.
Thank you, convener. I wholeheartedly agree with what you say, that it is an excellent report, noting that the activity levels year on year are at reduced by more than 5%. Excellent result. And when it comes to the 3-year average, again, there is a lot of reductions on that. I think there's 3 in total that are reduced by up to 5%. Excellent report. The only question I really have to ask there is when it comes to the Everclyde activity summary, and it mentions the false alarms. Now, I don't know if this question has been asked before. The false alarms, are that false alarms with good intent, or is it vexatious, or a mixture of both?
Thank you, Councillor. That one on the Everclyde activity summary has all of the false alarms combined, so it could be a good intent, malicious, unwanted fire alarm signals, so that's a combination of all of them in that particular indicator, and then we've chosen to break down the unwanted ones further on in the report.
That's lovely. Answers it.
If you wish for us to break it down into good intent and malicious, we can do that in the future.
No, I do think it's that actually takes up more and more time to do so. I know that your time is valuable, and I'm quite happy to stick with the overall figure.
I can give you some reassurance as well that the malicious nature of false alarms has greatly reduced in recent years through positive engagement we've had with schools and other types of premises where it was prevalent.
That's very nice, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for that. I don't see anything on the screen. I don't see anything within the chamber. Thank you, Kevin. We move on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item number 4, revised home fire safety visit programme. Kevin.
Thank you, Chair. I felt that as one of our key partners, it was important to update you on changes we are making to the way that we will conduct home fire safety visits. Home fire safety visits have been in the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service for over 20 years now and have been a huge success. We are making changes to how we do that imminently, and I just wanted to give you a wee bit of detail on that. Each year we deliver over 40,000 home fire safety visits. These visits involve staff engaging with individuals within their own homes to identify potential fire risks and provide advice and education. As of February the 12th this year, we will be delivering a more targeted approach to high-risk individuals who meet the eligibility criterion, incorporating wider health and social care issues. This is based around factors which we know increase someone's risk of fire, which is hugely important. That can be hoarding, drugs, alcohol, age, dementia, etc. So we have also reviewed and updated our visit content and are exploring ways to strengthen referrals from partner organisations. As we know from experience, the individuals involved in fatal and serious fires are often known to partner organisations, but not necessarily to ourselves. Therefore, we're working with partners across Scotland to raise awareness of this and engaging with our contacts within Everclyde Council, the Health and Social Care Partnership, as well as other partners across Everclyde, to ensure continued collaboration and the success of our current home fire safety work. We are basically changing the system in which we gather referrals and record our data into an app-based system which will allow partners to directly refer onto the app, and those which will then decide what risk rating that individual is, and we will go and attend and do a visit if those individuals are high risk. We think it's important that we use our time wisely to ensure that we are contributing to the safety of those people who are vulnerable and high risk within our community. And for many years, with the best of intentions, we've used a phrase that we've spent a lot of time doing home fire safety visits to the worried well, and we would like to use our time and capacity more wisely so that we can have a greater contribution to those in the community that need us most. So there's been a bit of work ongoing with all our partners to provide a bit of education on how the system will work. There's been information sessions ran, and there is data sharing protocols being agreed so that we can much easier have referrals from partners for those most in need. We will probably go out and conduct a visit to those persons. But I just wanted to make everybody in the committee aware of that for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I notice it's launched in January/February. Is this the sort of thing that would come back and report regularly to this committee? Or would it perhaps be an annual report on the outcomes?
We can certainly do that, Chair, yeah, if you wish, and we will regularly update you on the number of visits carried out and the type of premises that we're carrying them out in, but there may be other community planning meetings where we could provide a breakdown of that detail too.
Hugh?
For yourself, Chair, just as the planner as the commander says, obviously we're working very closely with our colleagues on this. The protocol is now with our legal services going through the processes to look at if it's viable to do that. And within the new processes that they're putting forward to us is that we need to have named people to take the referrals. So we're still waiting to confirm that back with the service from HSCP and also from ourselves as the council. So we are working on it. It isn't in place yet, but we're waiting. We're taking guidance from our legal team on this at the moment.
Tell me, Hugh, what benefits do you see for the council and our constituents with this?
Again, for yourself, Chair, the benefits is, I'm not sure of the benefits yet, and that's why we're reviewing it through our legal services. I think that there will be an extra demand on ourselves, the way that it's done it. Obviously, over the years, it's been a very well service run by the service, fire service and the partners. What we need to look at is the demand on it put onto our officers to make sure that there's a proper app in place to make sure that we can make the correct referrals. We do take into consideration the aim behind this and why it's doing, but we're just trying to ensure the system's right for ourselves.
Thank you, Hugh. Any questions? I don't see any in the chamber and none online. Thank you for that, Kevin. We look forward to something in a year's time, say. Thank you. Agenda item number 5. Local police and fire scrutiny panel. Update report. Hugh.
For yourself, Chair, thank you very much. Again, this is just an update. Obviously, the paper's been out to yourselves to. So this just gives you an update of any emerging items for the agenda going forward, but also from the police and fire boards and discussions going on at a national level. Within the paper, 3.1 gives you a number of things that were discussed at the SP board on the 28th of November. And you can see within the documentation there's a number of things we've discussed in that. And that's including COSMOS local regional scrutiny board, mental health and distress, but I'm not going through it all. And the other thing under 4.1 was the police estate. And obviously we've had a number of debates about that recently, previous committees. But it just gives you an update of what that was discussed, obviously, at the 40 board. There's a new campaign, ruining Police Collins domestic abuse campaign under 5.1, and you can see more information within the paper on that. Under 6.1, on November there was a carry out an inspection resulted by on-road policing. And 6.2 is the 13 recommendations it's been put forward to Police Scotland. Part of the inspection, and within that we'll put a link to the field report for yourselves to look at. Again, 7.1 is obviously the board for the Scottish Fire and Rescue. Within that it's just about looking at locality plans and local plans, which we'll work very closely with our colleagues to look at that and take it forward. And again, just to mention the great working partnership we've had with the service around Macleod Fire Skills, and I'm delighted to say that we will be having another course later on in the year to support that. And that is funded in partnership with our colleagues to take that forward. And the young people are really enjoying that and having an impact on that. Happy to get any questions on it.
Thank you, Hugh. Any questions, colleagues? Ian?
Thank you, Convener. Again, just a question through to David. It's regarding the Police Estates Master Plan. Obviously, it's still in a continuation, but I was just looking for any update at all regarding the likelihood that we may lose custody sales. In fact, the opposite, that we shouldn't lose custody sales, and if there's any further plans to make sure that that doesn't happen, because obviously the consequences would be very much hit on local policing. I'm just looking to, if there's any update regarding that, thanks.
Chief Superintendent?
Yes, indeed, I'll take that one, of course. So the update is a bit of a holding position, to be honest, because while it went out for consultation, relatively recently, I think that was last year, wasn't it, in relation to the movement of the police station, because as you know, the age and disrepair of the building makes it really quite a financially difficult thing to hang on to in its current state. So there were various options provided, and custody indeed is the hurdle. So there were opportunities within the community for the local policing element of the building to move and to relocate, but still within the community. But they didn't find the same solution for custody. So at the moment, we won't be going anywhere. The building is remaining where it is. There's a lot of benchmarking, there's a lot of fact finding from other forces in relation to how they manage their custody provision, what that might look like, what a bespoke build looks like for a custody building, etc., etc. So that's the stage at which they're at. So if you look at by the time land is found, properties are built, or finances is agreed, and I can't see anything happening within the next year or two, if I'm perfectly honest. And if it does, if the stars align and there is a solution, there'll be a further consultation prior to anything taking place. But certainly within Inverclyde, it was absolutely understood that the appetite for moving that provision is not there, because I do appreciate, from my perspective as well, I don't want officers travelling a 1 hour, 2 hour round trip to try and find a cell for a prisoner. So certainly not within. It won't be within my tolerance either. So I'll 100% be on the same page when those discussions are brought to me. But at the moment, we're staying where we are until a more suitable solution is found, and it's custody that is causing us the issue, rather than a building to facilitate the local policing officers. So as I say, you'll understand the process that have to go through before any solution is found and arrived at, and it won't be quick. I can't put a time frame on it, but I can tell you it won't be any time in the immediate future.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Thank you.
I don't see any hands on the screen, and nothing within the chamber. Well, it only remains to thank Kevin, David and Rona for your contributions today. Thank you to the officers who attended, and thank you to my colleagues. The meeting is finished.